Hello and welcome back to the next One Piece review, discussion and reaction. This time we have just come back from the 2 week break Oda so desperately needed to make sure he was healthy, to make sure he was better. He had been exploring the live action set. He clearly must have just been very run down. He works very long hours. So those 2 week breaks went kind of quick, to be fair. There was that confusion in the middle of whether it was going to be a longer break or whether it was getting released this weekend. But we are here with the next chapter, officially rolling into the 2025 slate of chapters. So, yes, we are still in 2024, but Shueisha revealed that the now continuing chapters moving forward will fall under the 2025 year of One Piece like chapters. So we're just moving ahead in time because why not? Looking forward, we haven't got many chapters left. I think we might already have this one, maybe two for December. Depends how it all lines up. And then we are in 2025, which is mad to me that we are a year ahead already. But nevertheless, I'm ready to get stuck in and really delve into some of the mysteries that get revealed in this chapter. So, without further ado, chapter 1132, Adventures in Elbaph. What a great title. That's like a D&D led title. Like, we're going on an adventure. This is going to be perfect. So we continue with Yamato's cover story, and we are following on chasing this culprit who has taken the katana, and they have arrived at the rebuilding of Udon Castle. So where the old prison mines were, the castle is being rebuilt, which is kind of cool to see. But we're ready for Elbaph now. So last we had left off, Luffy had a very interesting interaction with Loki. So we saw the two of them kind of have a little back and forth. Loki trying to persuade Luffy to free him. Then brought up Shanks, and all of a sudden Luffy lost his mind for about 10 seconds. So don't know where that came from. But there seems to have been some deal or interaction between the two of them that we're not quite sure what. Oda's not going to reveal yet, obviously, but something's occurred. Meanwhile, the other Straw Hats, the ones who are on the island, so Sanji, Zoro, Nami, Chopper, Usopp, they have tried to reach the other end of the bridge, escaping Road, and also Gerd and Goldberg, who are in tow with the Sunny, trying to chase him down as well. And then we have, God, so much happened in 2 chapters ago. Then the big one was Robin changing her hairstyle back to how she had it pre-time skip in order to sort of reminisce and for her first meeting with Saul after so long. However, the chapter concluded with Saul collapsing, falling over, not waking up, and people were in a panic. So that's where it was left. We've now jumped 2 weeks ahead. So where we are now, we pick up with the Great Eric ship, the flagship of the giant warrior pirates, what we've been sailing on this entire time, reaching port, and it is a very familiar port. It is the same port where Shanks decided to one-shot Kid. No debris around, so clearly, obviously, days have passed. I think it was like 3 or 4 days now of travel, but not a single sight of floating plank or like any debris from Kid's destroyed ship. Shanks has sailed away. So we have that little port house where he was drinking with everyone. we have that child talking and saying the giant warrior pirates have returned, and we get the reveal of this child being called Colin. So Colin is shouting down the ship saying, "Are you coming into the bar? You're gonna have a drink?" And we just see Dory going, "Nope, we're heading up. See you later." And he's like, "Oh." Colin, in a panic, obviously decides to run straight in and is like, "I've got to go." They're not coming in, they're heading straight up. So somehow making their way up the tree somehow. But we see that, the barmaid says, "Oh, well, if they started drinking, those guys, they would drink for 3 days straight. So no wonder they just want to get up and start the party up top." So we can see something of Elbaph lifestyle. But nevertheless, she passes something over in a basket and said, "This basket has, the favourite treats of your dad and Ripley. So I've packed them in. You take it." They're heading up to the Sun Realm. So we're already getting a name drop of the level we're heading to, known as the Sun Realm. So as the kid is taking this basket, is running away, packed his bag, he's like, "Oh yeah, this is the pirate that Dorian Broggy went to fetch, right? The one our boss told us about. He's now a Yonko. He is one of the 4 emperors." And we see a small shot of Shanks saying, "Straw Hat Luffy, remember his name." So Shanks has already given these guys the rundown and everything about Luffy. And I think the world obviously knows who Luffy is. He's one of the emperors. So interesting where Shanks has left things. Because again, he's still so mysterious in the sense of, is he going to still be an ally to Luffy just because of all the history? Or pirating, is he going to turn on him? Who knows? But clearly so far he's given good impressions. But the kid skips off and we see Hyruden and Stanzen have now met up with the Great Eric ship and are heading for a rainbow. They're like, "Talk about good fortune. We're in time for a rainbow. Let's catch a ride." And we see this giant shot, like expansive landscape shot of a almost like vertical bending rainbow that leads up to the tree. And all the straw hats are like blown away here on the ship. Like, it's gorgeous. Like, I've never been so close to a rainbow. Like, Bonnie is like, it's like got stars in their eyes. Like, it is so clear and beautiful. And it's like, aren't we not supposed to see a rainbow at this angle? Like, how is this possible? And even Lilith is like, well, the beauty of it would be evident from any angle. So, it's so lovely to see. But that's not how it's here. Because Broggy explains, he goes, this is really not an out of the ordinary around here, like, and he pulls out a cube and he says, "This is a sunstone painter and we can draw that rainbow." So is this a physical object that has similar abilities to Luffy? Luffy being the sun god, we've seen it in action. He can manifest and pull and create all manner of items from his imagination. Is there some fragment of that power on a small scale that is stored in this block, this painter, that it's able to physically manifest something to use? I.e., they've decided to draw a rainbow that can physically be traversed on. So I hope we get more details about this, because this block is very interesting. But who knows for the time being what it is. And even Jinbei is like, "Are you saying someone drew that rainbow and we're going to ride on it?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, like, we really should have explained this. You're going to have to grab on. We're heading up top. We're not staying down here, but we're going to go vertical. So hold on." And they're like, what? And the ship, like, bends onto the rainbow and starts to just ascend. And they're like, oh, let's give them some more explanation. So the village we're heading to, our village, is atop of the tree. That's why we're just catching a ride on this rainbow straight up. And we will start the party up there. And Frankie is like, hold the phone. I don't want that explanation. You need to tell us how this works. And even Robin and like Bonnie are trying to like explain like rainbows are just, refractions of light off of water droplets like rain. How the hell are we riding on it? And Dory and Broggy both give the best answer and they're like, what are you talking about? Rainbows are meant to be crossed. So they just completely avoid and just say, we're crossing it. Like, there's no other explanation. They've always been able to be crossed. So we see a lovely shot crossing the rainbow, birds flying by. The giant Great Eric ship. I didn't realise how big this ship was until I now saw another giant ship. So Hyruden and Stanton's ship next to this ship. Like, it is so big for scale. And they're like, oh, we've like caught up. We've got the perfect tailwind here. Rainbow current, we actually don't give any resistance. So even without the wind, the slightest of pushes and we'd sail clean. The momentum would just carry us. So it is perfect for days like this. And we can see Bonnie in her little kid form now. She's not reverting back to her adult. She is mesmerised by this 7 colours sea. And even Robin comments, the world doesn't cease to amaze her with all these like chain of wonders. This never-ending cycle they keep coming up into. But what we do see is a brief interaction with Hyruden, the captains, and Frankie, and they're like saying like, a long time no see, or like the straw hats are with you, like we're so ready, we've been waiting for you, we've even hunted down a moose just for him, and we can't wait for us all to get together finally. So they seem to be on their way up this rainbow bridge heading to the Sun Realm. So we jump back to the Straw Hats who are crossing the bridge or have since made it, and we actually pick up with Gerd and Goldberg on the bridge between the realm of the dead and the realm of the sun. Because remember, this bridge connects the mountain up into the tree. So they started in that road-built prison cell and have since now head on up the bridge. But it's actually Luffy flying through the air saying, hold up, that's our ship, what are you doing? And Goldberg and Gerd are like, oh, you're Luffy? Ah. And Gerd is mesmerised by how cute he is, and she's like, I love tiny humans. Not in the way that Road does, he is so weird, don't look me in with that creep, but I just want to be friends, really. And Goldberg's like, Gerd, this isn't the time, come on. And she's like, oh yeah, okay, right, it is awful what he's done to you. He didn't give you a choice, he put you in that jail cell. We don't want to associate with that freak if we had the choice. But we're so sorry about all this, And Goldberg catches Luffy off a bit and he says, you just came up from the realm of the dead, right? You just jumped up. Like, what were you doing down there? Did you fall through like the bridge? And Luffy goes into immediate like panic and he's like, and we see a small little shot of Loki telling Luffy, remember our deal is a secret. So do not say a word to anyone about our meeting. Okay, Luffy? And Luffy is a terrible liar. He's panicking. He can't think of something to say. And then Gerd is like, oh, you're sweating. Like, it is freezing out here. And you're like, oh, you must be just nervous. Don't worry about it. I'm just glad you're okay. And just like brush over it. The two of them know of Loki very well. Maybe they don't obviously want to bring it up because he's the shame of Elbaph, but surely you'd have some suspicion. You know, he's just jumped up from the realm of the dead. But what's this deal they've made? What's Luffy gone and done? Is he gonna get this key? Is it gonna be something for like food related? He's like, oh, Loki promised me a banquet or something or other, and that's how Loki gets out. Oh God, can't be that. Anyway, we carry on and we arrive with the other Straw Hats who have now crossed the bridge, and it looks like Road has caught up to them, and Nami and Chopper are like surprised, caught off guard as Road leaps towards them and gets absolutely annihilated by a tree branch, or just tree itself, landing flat on his face. And they're like, dude, even an animal wouldn't fall for a trap like that. Like, come on, are you really that dumb? And it's like, Zoro, Sanji, you kind of overdid it there. And then Usopp's like, why'd you always overdo it? And Zoro is like, you didn't even lift a finger, like, we did it all. But they seem ready to go and find this village, this land of the giants. But it is not before Goldberg and Gerd, there's so many G's, have caught up and decide to dole out their own punishment and have in their own way the sovereignty of the sea attack, that conquest where they just both swing together and just annihilate Road, and bless him, he just got absolutely destroyed. And they're like, whoa, okay, maybe we didn't actually overdo it. They're like, oh, yeah, no, yeah, you're right, maybe we didn't go too far. But Luffy is obviously with them. He's like, oh, hey, how's it going? So they all have reconvened and they've brought the Sunny along, and Gerd is the one to be like, Straw Hat, it is so nice to see you. I'm Gerd, this is Goldberg. We are Hyruden's subordinates, and we're sorry that you had to see our ugly side. We didn't want you to arrive in this way, but Road took it upon himself to do this, so we'll guide you from this point on. And as Sanji puts it beautifully, their guiding star, because he's infatuated by a giant woman, as he would be. But there's not enough time to continue talking, because Luffy, Usopp and Chopper begin to bolt in the opposite direction, like carrying on, being like, Usopp, the village is on this level, we've got to go, like, we're ready for this, and start running. And Gerd shouts out, keep heading out of the forest and you'll find some clouds, and on those clouds you can actually ride your way to the village. So we're getting like Skypiea vibe now, where the clouds, being maybe so high up, can be like traversed on, like we've seen. So that's kind of a cool tie back. But Gerd picks up Zoro, Sanji, who's in a state of shock, and Nami scoops them up and begins to take them along with Goldberg carrying the Sunny again. And they're jumping on these clouds and they're like, oh, this is so cool, like we can ride them. And at the same time, the other Straw Hat and the Giants have reached like the apex of the Rainbow Bridge, and it's like, oh look, once the clouds clear, you can see it right there. You see Elbaph has 3 levels. There is the realm of the dead, the realm of the sun, and the realm of heaven is the top of the tree. So we're not going the full 9 realms, unfortunately, but we're close enough. We've got 3 levels to the giant Elbaph tree. So heaven, sun, and realm of the dead. And Dory is like, we live where the sun always shines, in the realm of the sun. Sun god. Realm of the sun. I see where we're going. And Robin's the one to comment, it's such a vast landscape that it stretches as far as the eye can see. It is beautiful. And there is the village. And we have a beautiful double page spread of the welcome to Elbaph, of this quintessential Viking style fantasy village. Wooden houses, huts, a bridge, a waterfall, there's a rainbow. There's a very similar looking castle to what like Rode had built in his little Lego world. So that's where his inspirations come from. But I'm assuming that's where maybe Hyrule kind of sits. But this is a lovely place. And we get a reminiscing moment from Luffy and Usopp from all the way back in Little Garden when they say, guys, someday I swear it, I am going to Elbaph, the village of warriors. And they're like, all right, Usopp, let's do it. And it's like Luffy and Usopp, like, just mesmerised by what they're seeing. And it's at this point we get a narrating box kind of adding to the description. And it is really nicely done. It sets up a lot of the scenery, but also what's to come. So it says, it is a sight of such enormity that it stuns all visitors. Most fail to find words that adequately describe the immense grandeur. They call it the Kingdom of Warland, and it resides on the massive Isle of Elbaph. And like everyone's reaction is just in amazement, other than Sanji, who is very snugly holding or sleeping in Gerd's hand, it looks like. But everyone else is just amazed by the sight they are seeing. Which begs the question, how big is this island in comparison to like other island size? Like, is this like a continent? It can't be a continent size, but it's certainly going to be big enough. It houses giants, and it has 3 levels, so vertically it's big, but also how wide is this island? Oda might come out with that at some point, but we see that the cloud Luffy and the others were stood on is adjacent to the rainbow that the others are riding on. Funny how things work out. And they're like, oh, Luffy, like, oh, look, we found everyone. Like, how did you get here? It's like, oh, so you guys made it. Yeah, we kind of came here ahead of time. But we see that the narrator continues while they are reunioning and says, the common moniker for this island is Elbaph, the land of the giants. From the mighty tree to the gentle flowers, from sea to sky to land, all life on this particular island is so huge it takes one's breath away. To those who seek adventure, I concede it would be a great shame to turn away from this marvellous land. And it's when we see a shot of Luffy, Chopper and Usopp realising that everyone's next to them on a rainbow. It's like, wait, you're riding on a rainbow? And they're like, the eyes bulge and the tongues are out. And they're like, this is the greatest place ever. But we are getting close to the end. And it's where the adventure is kind of going to take a shift. Because we see a shot somewhere, I assume, on this level of the realm of the sun. It is a wooded treescape. There is a giant bear just sort of on its hind legs, just sort of watching a shadowed individual. Not a giant, a human-sized individual with a like Wano like straw hat and like cloak. And they're just walking through the forest. And there is a narrator continuing, but for this individual, it is so strange who this could be that the only speculation I've seen so far and a callback to was way back in chapter 631's cover story. It was the dude who met with Crocus, and he had that wano hat, like the wano coloured robe, and was like talking with Crocus like old friends, or at least were on good terms. So, are we finally making this guy reappear back in the story about who it is? Because I'm pretty sure at the time there was a lot of speculation that that was Shiki. Like, it had like his long hair, and like people like coloured it, and it was like blonde, so people like it's Shiki. He's like reintroducing himself into the story, but we never found out who exactly it was. And I think he might have reappeared once or twice in cover stories, but he's now in the main story. So whether this is a new character or a character we've seen before, they have certainly already made their presence on the island known, because this bear doesn't want to go near him. He's just watching him. So again, I'm interested. Is this the dude who was like, we'll see what happens when you get here? Like, it was like a few chapters ago where he's like, come on, straw hats type of thing. But he seems relaxed for the time being, just walking calmly through the jungle. And we do see that the narrator finishes by giving one word of advice. Well, in his words, one piece of advice. You see what Oda's done? He's like, however, if nothing, I implore you to keep this one piece of advice in mind. Should you venture out and arrive at Elbaph's vast and mysterious soil, heed my simple warning. If I could only write one thing about this enticing nation, it would be this. Do not linger there for too long. And it was written by Lewis Arnott, the explorer. Yes, the guy who monikered the name of Little Garden way back at chapter 115, when we first heard Nami explain the name of this island was Little Garden. We later found in that Bragman book, the like collection of journals from explorers from around this world, that Lewis Arnott was the one who coined Little Garden the name because of Dorian Broggy's battle, and he was like this giant, and they called it Little Garden in like perspective of like them to the island. So he's clearly seen all that with Dorian Broggy, has maybe spoke to them hundreds of years ago, and has since made his way to Elbaph and explored it and wrote about his journey. But he ends the chapter with the start of a giant adventure, saying, do not linger there for too long. Why? Why won't you just tell us? I guess for the story. But I'm interested to know why staying too long on this island of giants is bad. We shall see. But happy to be back. There is no break next week, so I assume we are going to get the following chapter, which is going to be nice. But there is a lot happening. We've got this mysterious figure, the warning from Lewis Arnott. We've now got a deal has been made with Loki and Luffy. So whatever's going on there, there's a lot. The Sun Painting Stone. What's this Sunstone Painter thing that Broggy was just happily using, going, oh yeah, we can just brand on rainbows here. Like, can you not do that? Where do you come from? So, anyway, let me know what you thought of this chapter. Thank you for sticking with my ramblings this far. I do appreciate it. I will see you guys next time. Bye.